Today we're going to do one of our comparative reviews between Geforce Now Beta and Shadow, the two new kids on the block of the high-end gaming PC cloud streaming services that allow you to play your games you already own over the internet using their hardware. I'm Stu, this is 3B, and I've touched the future. Not only of gaming, but perhaps of where console gaming will eventually evolve. Now, first of all, to stop any confusion, Geforce Now Beta is not the same as Geforce Now currently is on their Shield devices and tablets. It's a very different thing. This is something really different, and what we'll be focusing on. The key difference is that Geforce Now Beta and Shadow, that we'll both be comparing today, don't provide any games. You simply get a system that allows you to play your Steam library or Uplay or Origin and other games on your device. Currently it appears on Geforce Now Beta only Steam and Uplay and Origin are supported, whereas on Shadow, being that you get a full Windows 10 high-end 8-core GTX 1080 PC over the cloud, you can install what you want within reason. Whereas with Geforce Now Beta, it's kind of presented to you as a shell that allows you to run Steam or Uplay or Origin, but you can't install or use it as a PC. Now, gaming in the cloud is nothing new. Previously with OnLive, then Gaikai, both of which were purchased by Sony, who got the patents and technology to form and enable their own streaming gaming service, which we saw a few years ago and which we see now. Since then, Nvidia have had Geforce Now on their Shield tablets and devices, but you could and can only play games that they have in their libraries. With their latest Geforce Now Beta and Shadow, you get to play your own games that you already own using their hardware over the internet. Now, when it works, it does so well, but when it doesn't, oh boy, it doesn't. Now, a couple of side notes here, and this is important, is that you need at least 15 megabyte internet connection. Can be Wi-Fi, but better with Ethernet, a PC or Mac, and as long as it's not too old, it should be fine. I tested this using a high-end Windows 10 Pro water-cooled PC. The CPU is an AMD Threadripper 950X with an EVGA GTX 1080 Ti, 32 gigabytes of RAM and M.2 drives. Gigabit Ethernet with 100 megabit megabyte connection. I was using the Geforce apps and recording using Camtasia 7. So the reason behind all this, using the apps on that PC, was that I could record and it wouldn't have any sort of effect by recording it. It wouldn't sort of change or have any effect on what the recorded footage that you will see in and what we're reviewing doing. So now we have that out of the way, which I didn't explain very well at all. Let's quickly compare the two side by side. Geforce Now Beta from Nvidia is their reimagining of their existing Geforce Now. The key difference, instead of a monthly subscription to play existing games from a library, you pay per hour, depending on the specification of the graphics card you want to use, whether it's a GTX 1060, 1070 or 1080, on a 4-core based PC that runs within a shell software platform virtualized and streamed to you via their software app or to their devices, which allows you to play games that you already own from your Steam, Origin or Uplay libraries. Now, their app runs on most PCs and Macs. Shadow, on the other hand, is somewhat different. Instead of a virtualized shell that only plays games from certain platforms, in this instance you get a fully fledged Windows gaming PC with 8 cores, 12 gigabytes of RAM, a 256 SSD, and a GTX 1080 as standard. You can decide what you want to install on the PC, and it's streamed to you via its app, which is available on PC, Mac, and also, interestingly, Android and iOS. You simply pay a monthly subscription for the service, and you can use as much as you like. You get a gaming PC, effectively, that you can play on any crappy old laptop, on a Mac, and get a high-end graphical experience on a laptop that's probably barely play solitaire. So why would anyone want this, you may ask? Well, simple. To buy a comparable system in terms of Shadow would be $1,250 at least, given the prices of GPUs. Then you've got the upgrades and all the hassle with potential breakdowns. All of that is taken care of by renting a virtual gaming PC. Plus you get their support too. So in many cases, if you want real hardware, you can use one of their devices. Both NVIDIA and Shadow have devices that you can simply plug into your TV. Shadow, at the moment, are providing the device for free with a 12-month contract subscription in the UK. Now let's look at the price of each of these services. Geforce Now Beta apparently will be charged per hour, depending on the GPU that you wish to use. Now, figures are not solid, it's set in stone, but there is a strong suggestion that the GTX 1080 will be $2.50 per hour. There is no lock-in or subscription, you simply pay for what you use. Now, perhaps there will be the ability to buy blocks of hours or pre-purchase these blocks, but that remains to be seen. But at these prices, if you're an avid gamer, this could really stack up. Whereas Shadow does away with these hourly charges with a simple monthly subscription fee. Depending on your contract, you can have a kind of a pay-as-you-go with no contract, and you just sort of pay monthly and leave any time, you're not tied in, which is $49.95, or a 3-month contract at $39.95 per month, or 12-month contract for $34.95 per month. You download an app to any PC, Mac, iPhone, or Android device, or you can rent for $9.95 a month. You can rent one of their boxes or simply buy it outright for $139.95. Shadow is available in California in the US as they test it for the US market, but it's been widely available in the UK and Europe right now. Geforce Now Beta is in beta only, which means you have to awkwardly register and then wait for an invite code, and only then can you gain access. And the access is available in the US and in Europe. Shadow appears to be expensive, but looking at Geforce Now Beta, if you play a game, say, for 20 hours per month, which isn't really that hard to do, you would have already eaten through $50 on Geforce Now. On Shadow, even on the pay-as-you-go, no contract, not tied in, you'll be able to play as much as you like. So who wins on cost? Well, really, it has to be Shadow. If you are a gamer and enjoy playing campaigns and multiplayer and play longer than 20 hours or more per month, then you'll be better off with Shadow. If, on the other hand, say you're a very casual gamer, then perhaps Geforce Now Beta. But we're looking at this as someone that is sort of wanting a high-end PC, but doesn't want to shell out for one, but wants what all that can bring to you and your games. Plus, you have to consider Shadow is a full Windows 10 gaming PC too. So Shadow, for me, wins on cost. Next, we have to look at the real elephant in the room, which is lag, stutter, and compression. These things that you have to consider when using any cloud-based gaming system. Lag will kill any game that requires you to move, aim, point, drive, or action anything quickly, which basically is most games. Lag is a killer of these and was the death really of OnLive. despite it being a great idea at the time, on live had suffered so much from lag. It was such an issue, and I experienced over and over with on live that most games became unplayable after a while. Excuse my stomach, I need to eat. So when looking at Geforce Now Beta and Shadow, my concern immediately was focused on the problems I had experienced before with on live, which is stutter, lag, and compression. How much was it going to affect me? How much were I going to be taken out of that experience? Geforce Now Beta, to be honest, I was really hopeful given the amazing benchmarks results that we have seen when running 3D Mark. In fact, eclipsing Shadow in some cases. But this has more to do with Geforce Now Beta currently defaulting to an NVIDIA Tesla P40, a $5,700 GPU no less. Now, let's not get too excited. The benchmarks are amazing, which is no surprise, but NVIDIA has stated that the options for after the beta will be 1060, 1070, and 1080. We can therefore expect that the graphics prowess of the Geforce Now Beta will be dialed down quite a lot to similar, if not identical, levels of benchmarking that we've also seen from when we benchmarked the Shadow PC that was running at 1080. Now, it's important to understand really that benchmarks really don't give us the true story. They kind of really only reflect the hardware in ideal circumstances. We don't experience any lag or stutter because we're passive. We're just watching pretty pictures. In fact, here, both looked much the same. There was little compression compared to both. However, things got very different indeed when we played games. For this, the games that we used were Far Cry Primal and Doom. One thing that is interesting is that sometimes I couldn't select the same resolution for each system. However, we always took it to the maximum for both with ultra settings, pushing really both Geforce Now Beta and Shadow as much as we can to their real limits. So let's compare Doom on Geforce Now and Shadow. Now we have to understand that not only parts of the game are kind of slightly on rails, so we compare these side by side, like we have here, and immediately you can see more compression on Geforce Now than you can on the Shadow. The other thing to look out for is during the gameplay, and this is the key thing for me, Geforce Now Beta sucked. I had trouble aiming. The lag was so large I couldn't get my bearings, and when the stutter kicked in, it's really bad. On the Shadow, it was more fluid. There was lag, but nothing to stop me playing, and it felt more like I was playing rather than fighting lag to play the game, which was certainly the case with Geforce Now Beta. Now, in some later section, when I am fighting more and more, it becomes too hard to work with the lag and stutter from Geforce Now Beta, and Shadow simply just blows it away in terms of lag and stutter. It doesn't mean to say Shadow doesn't have it. It does have it, but it's just simply not that noticeable. So next we'll move on to compression. Now here we use a graphically intense game such as Far Cry Primal. We have the same settings on both. I did that for some reason on the Shadow, that on the menu system on Far Cry Primal it was really struggling and was finicky. It was really awkward. Not sure why, but it wasn't playing nice on Shadow. I didn't have that issue on Geforce Now Beta. Perhaps, it was just a glitch. It all changed for me with the gameplay and the graphics on both. So, once again, on the Rails parts, we will have them side by side, as you can see, and at first they both look pretty good graphically, but eventually, as you will see, the Geforce Now Beta begins to compress, and as we move to more sort of actual gamer controlled action, this compression becomes more and more obvious. And then when you combine that with lag and stutter, it makes my playing the game so difficult that even on easy against a baby mammoth, I die. Whereas on Shadow, compression and lag, yeah, they're there. It's, and stutter. But it's to such a small degree. It really doesn't take me out of the experience of playing the game. I'm not fighting the lag and stutter. I'm fighting and enjoying the game, which is key. So, who wins on the gaming front when playing Doom and Far Cry Primal? Well, for me, once again, it has to be Shadow. There was lag and stutter and compression on both, but with Shadow, it felt it wasn't enough for me to not enjoy the game. Whereas with GeForce Now Beta, I was simply fighting the lag and stutter far too much. Consider again that I'm running this on a 100 megabyte internet connection on a gigabit Ethernet connection, and they're both recommending 15 megabyte internet connection. If GeForce Now Beta struggles on a 100 megabyte connection on a gigabit network, then what will it be like on the bare minimum? It does make you wonder. So the winner for me on the gaming front really, really just has to be Shadow. Shadow does win on gaming. Now, there are some other things to consider, the both sort of pros and cons of both, and we have to try and be fair and balanced. GeForce Now Beta network is really quick, super quick. I noticed this when downloading or launching a game. It was super fast. Plus, there didn't appear to be any limit on the number of games I could download, whereas with Shadow, on the other hand, it was really, slower at downloading compared to GeForce, much like, say, a standard PC on a really quick connection. It would get up to, say, 16 megabytes per download on Steam, where at GeForce Now Beta got a download speed of up to 300 megabytes, which is super quick. Meaning, really, you're spending less time waiting for games to download and install. Shadow was much slower on at both, which is limited to just 256 gigabytes of storage, and your OS is on that too. However, you have to consider it's a high-end 8-core GTX 1080 gaming PC running Windows 10, which you can use just like a decent normal PC. No mining, I hasten to add. That will get you booted off their system and probably incur a financial penalty too, according to the terms and conditions, so don't try it. Now, these space limitations are a bind and mean having only, say, 3 or 4 games on there at the tops, and perhaps some other software too. However, having said that, I'm sure, in fact, in the future, having again looked at the terms and conditions, that it appears that maybe at some point there'll be options for larger storage later, which is a great thing. The GeForce Now Beta isn't a gaming PC as such. You don't and can't get any access beyond the game library management software such as Steam. You don't get any access to the OS that is running, and it's simply a shell. I did encounter some odd frustrations with it being a shell. Authorizing some apps and games meant that pop-up windows would appear behind other windows, meaning that I can't access it without closing the one in front. It got really awkward. And there was quite a lot of this awkwardness at times that will no doubt, I'm sure, be addressed in sort of future updates. So who wins then? Well, you have to consider that GeForce Now Beta is, well, a beta. However, given that it's NVIDIA and they have a good amount of experience in this field, they really should be smashing Shadow, but they're not. Furthermore, the beta isn't true to what the final benchmarks show. Given that the GPU is down as a crazy Tesla P40 and the benchmarks results show that it's chewing through data at a Tesla P40 rate and not a GTX 1080 rate, as it should be and will be on launch, or less, depending on which options you go for, whether it's 1060 or 1070 or 1080. Shadow, on the other hand, is a real living, breathing, ready-to-go system. You get an 8-core GTX 1080 256 SSD gaming PC running Windows 10. It's quick, it's easy to use, and it's just like owning a PC without all the hardware hassle. You can use it beyond just gaming, and it can be the replacement for your PC entirely if you use the device and plug that into a monitor or TV. Lag and stutter and compression was too much on the Geforce Now Beta. To me, it took me out of the experience of playing a game all too often, whereas on the Shadow, it didn't. In fact, most of the time, it was pretty good. Still not absolutely perfect, but not far off. So my recommendation then, so far, based on what I've experienced, would be on Shadow. It's cheaper, it's faster, doesn't suffer as much lag or stutter, has less compression, and you get a fully fledged PC too. Geforce Now Beta is a beta, of course, and may improve, but I had hoped that they would have got the basics sorted and there wouldn't be as much lag, stutter, or compression to take me out of gaming so fast and so quick. Plus, it's just for gaming. You don't get a PC. So Shadow wins. Yay for Shadow. Boo for Geforce Now Beta. What do you think? What do you think of Geforce Now Beta or Shadow? Have you tried to have either of these? Let me know. Do you think that this is the future of gaming, and could this be where we see console gaming move to? Also, for those of you interested in extended footage, please take a look at the end of this video on my channel, where you can see all the gameplay and footage used for this video review. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, one of these, two of these. Consider subscribing, and I'm Stu, this is 3B, and I'll see you next time.